My brother invited us to stay at his place, and we won't have to pay rent or bills. Ashley, we're relying on you for this. I work in finance. My husband, let's call him Bob, fixes cars, and we live in the house I grew up in. But it's not like my parents live there anymore. It's actually a family business that my dad used to run. My brother was supposed to take over the company, so he studied economics in college. Also, my skilled brother went to Oxford University overseas to study business management, then came back to the US and teamed up with my dad for a while. When my parents decided to retire and move to a place like Aspen, Colorado, to enjoy nature and relaxation, my brother took over the family business. As a result, they passed the family home down to me, their daughter. So my husband and I decided to move in there. It's in a great spot, less than 5 minutes walk from the train station, and public transportation is easy to get to. Stores, hospitals, and schools are all nearby, which is handy. It's nice to know that as our kids grow up and move out, we'll still have everything we need close by. It makes me thankful that my parents left us this house. We were looking forward to growing our family and enjoying life, but we never imagined it would all be cut short by what happened. Since we moved in, my mother-in-law has been dropping by a lot. She's always curious about my parents' business and how much they're worth. It gets uncomfortable when she starts asking, "Hey, Ashley, what's the deal with your parents' money? How much will you get when they're gone?" I find it pretty tasteless, to be honest. I don't want to be rude, so I just say, I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it. I already have the house, so maybe there won't be much else. Even though I tried to brush it off with a laugh, she keeps pushing, saying, "Come on, they're getting up there in age. You never know what might happen." She was really fixated on talking about my parents' money. It felt like she was banking on their wealth. Even though I knew what I was set to inherit, I kept quiet. I didn't want to spill the beans to my mother-in-law or my husband, who's pretty close to her. But then, out of nowhere, something unbelievable happened. One holiday morning, around 8 a.m., the doorbell rang, and when I answered it, there were movers standing there. My mother-in-law and my brother-in-law's family had moved in without warning. I was completely caught off guard when the movers showed up. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law's family just waltzed in with big smiles, announcing they were moving in. Their enthusiasm sent shivers down my spine. When I turned to my husband for an explanation, he shrugged it off, saying, "What's the big deal if Mom and the others crash here? We've got plenty of space." He acted like it was no big deal to have them move in. I was already shocked enough by the sudden living arrangement, but then my sister-in-law dropped a bombshell. "Our brother invited us, Ashley. He said we don't have to pay rent or bills, so we're relying on you." Meanwhile, my brother-in-law started claiming rooms without asking, saying, "This room looks nice. Let's have it, Bob. Move everything out into the hallway." It all made my head spin. I couldn't believe it. They were treating my house like their own, claiming rooms left and right. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law's family had been overstepping boundaries for a while now, especially my sister-in-law, who even went through my bag without asking once. If this keeps up, they'll try to take over my room too. I've had enough. This is my house, and they're acting like they own it. I've reached my limit. I want everyone out. I'm not usually one to lose my temper or yell, but seeing these people move into the house my parents left me without asking and acting like they owned it pushed me over the edge. That's why I ended up shouting at all three of them. But then something I didn't expect occurred. "How dare you speak to us like that? You're the one who needs to leave." As soon as those words were out, I felt a sharp pain in my cheek. Did I just get slapped? It took a few moments for it to sink in. I was stunned. I couldn't believe what had just happened, and all I felt was the throbbing pain in my cheek. In that instant, something inside me snapped. I couldn't bear living with people capable of such disrespect. This house belongs to me, and I won't tolerate them treating it like their own personal space. I packed my things, planning to leave and inform my family about the situation. I needed to find a place far from here, so I rented a monthly apartment even though it meant a longer commute to work. When I broke the news to my parents over the phone, I could sense their anger, especially from my dad. He's always been supportive and caring, both as a CEO and as a father. I didn't want to drag my parents, who were about to retire, into this mess, but I had no choice. My inherited home was being taken away from me, and I had to do something about it. While I was staying in the monthly apartment, I was certain that my husband and his family were making themselves at home in my house. So I decided to take action based on suggestions from my brother and father. A few days later, during my break, I checked my phone to find numerous missed calls and messages from my husband. I knew exactly why he was reaching out. I had arranged for the water and electricity to be cut off. Since our house relies solely on electricity and we haven't installed solar panels yet, it must be quite challenging without power, especially in the heat. My husband's calls were probably about dealing with the situation. Just as I was about to ignore it, he called again, perfectly timing his call with my break. "Hey, what's happening? There's no electricity and the water's not running. Did you turn off the electricity and water?" I could sense the panic in my husband's voice over the phone. Since the house is mine and I'm not living there anymore, it only makes sense to cut off the utilities, right? That's why I had it done. I can't bear the thought of paying bills for a house I'm not even living in. So of course I had them shut off. But my husband was livid, demanding that I reinstate the contracts immediately. Just because he wants it doesn't mean I'll agree. If they want utilities, they should handle it with their own finances. Yet they always say, "It's your house, so you should pay." But their actions contradict their words. Regardless, I have no plans to renew the contracts or foot the bill. If they're unhappy about it, they should leave the house. With that, I ended the call because my break was over. Later on, my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law each called me separately. They were all complaining about the lack of electricity and water. They griped about how hot and uncomfortable their rooms were and how inconvenient it was without running water. But those were their problems, not mine. After hearing them out, I firmly told them to sort it out themselves and ended the calls. I thought they were just being greedy and assumed they'd give up and leave soon. However, even after a week passed, they showed no signs of leaving. So I decided to take further action. I sought advice from my father's company lawyer and asked him to send a notice to my husband. The notice was about trespassing. They had unlawfully entered my property without permission, forced me out, and were now occupying it as if it were theirs. I warned them, all four of them, that I was considering legal action. Why did I receive a lawyer's letter? Did it have to come to this? My husband, clearly taken aback and unprepared for my strong response, approached me seeking a compromise. I knew they cared deeply about their reputation, and the thought of being sued would be a severe blow to them. They wanted to avoid legal trouble, but they also didn't want to give up their current lifestyle. So they were likely trying to persuade me to let them stay. I could see through my husband's intentions perfectly. Despite this, I refused to entertain their pleas. My husband finally snapped, losing his temper even though he was at work. He shouted at me, demanding that I back down and drop the lawyer, but his outburst didn't faze me. If anything, it only irritated me further. "Who do you think you are, taking over someone else's house?" I thought to myself, no matter how much you shout, I won't change my mind. If you insist on squatting there, I'll take legal action. Think carefully before you act. Despite his continued shouting over the phone, I paid him no heed and hung up. This was a waste of time, and I had already discussed divorce with my lawyer. When I arrived home, I saw missed calls from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, but I knew they'd only be discussing settling the issue. I didn't want any more distractions, so I blocked their numbers to put an end to the calls. Eventually, my husband's proud family couldn't bear the thought of legal action, so they packed up and left the house. With the lawyer's involvement, the divorce proceedings progressed smoothly. I arranged for a cleaning service to restore the house to its former glory. Finally, I could enjoy the comfort of being back in my own, freshly cleaned home. Living separately from my husband's family and then in a rented apartment was fine, but nothing beats the comfort of my own space. Although some parts of the house are showing signs of wear, I'll need to think about renovating soon. I talked to my dad, and he recommended a great contractor for the renovation. Being on my own is surprisingly freeing. I can lounge on the couch without anyone nagging me, and I can eat whatever I please without judgment. Just as I was enjoying this newfound independence, I received a call from my ex-husband for the first time in 3 months. Initially, I ignored the call because I didn't recognize the number. But when it persisted, I reluctantly picked up, thinking it might be the contractor. However, as soon as I heard his voice, my mood plummeted. It was my ex-husband, from whom I had separated 3 months ago. I had already gone through the divorce process with the help of a lawyer, and we had agreed to stay out of each other's lives. So why was he calling me now, especially after changing his number? We had made it clear through legal channels that we wouldn't have any contact. There was no reason for us to speak. I was just about to end the call when he pleaded, "Please, just listen for a moment. I'm desperate." Reluctantly, I stayed on the line. It turned out his company was facing financial trouble, and he was facing a pay cut. On top of that, his mother's health was deteriorating, leaving her unable to work. My sister-in-law and her husband are struggling financially. He's unemployed, and she's juggling multiple part-time jobs just to keep up. Unfortunately, most of her earnings are going towards paying off his debts. Meanwhile, my ex-husband is facing a pay cut, making it even harder for him to make ends meet. As they poured out their troubles to me, all I could muster was a detached, "Okay, I see." After all, these are the same people who invaded my home without permission, disregarded my rights, and then tried to force me out. It's hard to summon any sympathy for them. Their problems are their own to deal with. There's nothing I can do to help. My ex-husband's desperation only escalated. "Please don't turn your back on us. We're on the brink here. We won't even have a roof over our heads or food on the table tomorrow. Remember, we used to be a family. Can't you help us?" His voice trembled with near tears, but I remained unmoved. When I faced difficulties, he offered no support and even joined my mother-in-law in belittling me. Just like her, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law looked down on me, mocking my appearance and traditional values. They shunned me for being too old-fashioned. Their insults cut deep, yet they showed no remorse. As for my mother-in-law, she exacerbated the situation by pressuring me to conceive, subjecting me to strange remedies, scheduling unnecessary doctor's visits, and spreading rumors of my infertility. Looking back, my marriage held no redeeming qualities. My ex-husband, who used to be so caring before our marriage, transformed into a puppet controlled by my mother-in-law after we tied the knot. On the day my mother-in-law barged into our home, I happened to be out for an appointment. She expressed disappointment to my husband, saying I wanted to see Ashley, but she wasn't here. "I want us to be friends, but I'm saddened." Upon hearing his mother's distress, my ex-husband lashed out at me without considering my side of the story. She claims she wants us to get along, but all she does is criticize me. "Has my son lost weight because your cooking is so terrible?" She says things like this loudly, whether we're at home or out in public. With her and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law all ganging up on me, there's no chance for us to have a harmonious relationship. I can't deal with people who behave like this anymore. No matter what you say, my decision stands. I can't assist you, so I'm ending this call now, and I don't want to hear from you again. With that, I hung up and blocked the new number. Knowing my ex-husband, he might change his number to reach me again. So I planned to change mine over the weekend. But before I could, they violated the lawyer's agreement. At 11 p.m., they showed up at my door, demanding entry and assistance. "Open the door. We're family. You should take care of us." Their loud banging and shouting disregarded the late hour. "What's going on at this hour? Please go home. You're disturbing the neighbors." When I approached the door, they seemed ready to force their way in. So I tried speaking through the intercom, but they ignored it, continuing to bang on the door and cause a commotion. Dealing with such unruly behavior left me speechless. I sat there feeling overwhelmed, contemplating whether to call the police when suddenly sirens blared from outside. It seemed a neighbor had taken action. Hearing the police approaching, the group, startled, assumed I had made the call and attempted to flee, but they were surrounded by onlookers, leaving them with no escape route. Soon the officers arrived and escorted them to the police station. I was questioned about the incident and provided a detailed account. News of the incident spread rapidly throughout the neighborhood, including to a colleague of my ex-husband's who happened to be among the spectators. By the next day, the entire office was buzzing with the story. Already struggling due to a pay cut, my ex-husband's troubles compounded when the company learned of his involvement with the police. He lost his job and couldn't afford his rent, leading to strained relations with his sister's family, ultimately leading to their shared living arrangement falling apart. Now, Bob and his mother reside in public housing, both working multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. Even his mother has joined the workforce part-time, desperate for additional income. I divorced my husband because he cheated on me 3 years ago with my younger sister. When I received their wedding invitation, it felt like a double betrayal, especially when my mother said she would attend the ceremony. Feeling betrayed by everyone close to me, my mother cryptically added, "I'll do something fun, you just wait and see." Determined to exact my own justice, Idema, who had once trained and guided him at our shared workplace where I was his boss, devised a plan. Initially, he had been nervous and uncertain in his role, but over time, our relationship grew beyond professional. His proposal came after he excelled in his job and won praise from our superiors. Our wedding went smoothly, and even my sister Kate, who had quickly befriended him, praised his kindness and ambition. However, after about a year of marriage, he began arriving home late, avoiding conversations about work, and spending less time with me. Feeling neglected, I suggested a spa getaway, hoping to reconnect. "I've booked a spa trip for us next month," I told him one day, hoping to rekindle our relationship. "Huh. Oh, is that next week?" he replied absent-mindedly. "I forgot to mention, I have to go on a business trip next weekend." "What? But you've known about the spa trip for quite some time." "Well, it's work, so it can't be helped." "I see." Liam's apartment seemed busier than ever with frequent business trips. It appeared I had no choice but to give up on our spa plans this time as well. As always, Liam left early the next morning for his business trip. If things had gone as planned, we would have been heading to the spa together by now, I thought, feeling disappointed. Just then, the hotel called. Despite my cancellation email, they hadn't received it due to an error and called to confirm our arrival time. That's right, maybe I'll invite Kate, I considered, dialing my parents' house. Unfortunately, Kate had been out all morning and wouldn't be back. As a last resort, I decided to invite my mother to the spa. Compared to my sister, I half expected Mom to decline on such short notice, but to my surprise, she agreed. "Really? Is it okay to leave Dad alone?" I asked. "Right now, I'm more worried about you than your father," she replied, sensing my recent low spirits and deciding to accompany me on the trip. "Thanks, Mom," I said gratefully. "I'm the one who should be thanking you. I'm happy we could take this trip together like this," I told my mother gratefully. It had been a long time since we had enjoyed a trip together. However, upon arriving at the hotel, my mother and I witnessed something shocking. "Mom, look at that," I whispered, pointing discreetly. There, at the hotel entrance, was Liam. He was supposed to be on his business trip, but he appeared happy, arm in arm with another woman as they entered the hotel where we were supposed to stay. "You've got to be kidding," I murmured in disbelief. The woman with Liam turned briefly in our direction. It was Kate, my own sister. After that moment, I was in a state of shock and barely remembered how we got back home. My mother made me some tea and slowly, my feelings began to calm. He had been deceiving me, I finally realized aloud, feeling betrayed not only by Liam but also by Kate. After regaining my composure, I called Liam's department. As suspected, they hadn't sent him on any recent business trips. In fact, they had been reducing workloads and avoiding overtime for years. When Liam came home late or was supposedly on business trips, Kate wasn't home either. I explained to my mother, who listened quietly. So, all those times he was meeting Kate, I concluded bitterly. Filled with anger rather than sadness, I made a decision. "Mother, I'm going to divorce Liam. I can't bear to see Kate right now, so I won't be visiting the house for a while," I declared firmly. My mother remained silent, understanding my emotions completely. "I'll prepare everything before Liam comes back," I added, determined to take control of the situation. I had already prepared the divorce papers, signed a lease for a new apartment where I could live temporarily before moving into my new house, and packed all my belongings. Leaving Liam's letter along with the divorce papers at our former home, I made it clear that all matters regarding alimony and legalities would be handled by my lawyer, and then proceeded to block all communication from him. To keep my new address confidential, I didn't inform my parents, despite working in the same company where we occasionally crossed paths. Each time, I chose to ignore him completely. Seeing the futility of the situation, Liam quickly agreed to the divorce. He didn't disclose the reasons to our colleagues, but they seemed to sense the situation and respected my privacy, avoiding the topic of our divorce entirely. 3 years passed with me keeping my distance not only from Liam, but also from my family. One evening after returning from work, I found my mother waiting for me in my apartment. "Mom, what's wrong?" I asked, surprised. "I have something to tell you," she said quietly, handing me an invitation. "This is from Liam and Kate," she explained. It turned out that Kate had left our family home and moved in with Liam. I thought they might get married, but I never expected them to have a wedding ceremony and invite our parents. "So, Mom, are you going?" I asked hesitantly. "Of course I am," she replied calmly. "I see." I was the only one who couldn't forgive the two of them yet. Clearly, they must have known, which was why they invited only our parents to the wedding. I felt I had no right to say anything, having distanced myself from both Liam and my parents. Seeing my sadness, my mother smiled reassuringly and said, "Don't worry, I'm not going because I forgive them. Just you wait and watch." On the day of the wedding, my mother called me via video. "I don't want to see their faces," I murmured, tempted to end the call. But then I recalled my mother's earlier words and stayed connected. The screen displayed a slideshow in progress. The MC began introducing the slides. This slideshow was made by the bride's mother. The MC explained. She gathered photos from her beloved daughter's birth to the present and created this presentation. I was surprised that my mother, who wasn't particularly tech-savvy, had managed to create such a heartfelt slideshow. Yet it stirred up a mix of emotions within me. "Mom, you went to this much effort for Kate," I questioned sadly. But in the next moment, I found myself captivated by what appeared on the screen. "This isn't Kate," I realized aloud. The slideshow had begun with a photo of me. "When she was born, so cute. There's a resemblance," remarked the guests as they watched with a relaxed atmosphere. Kate's expression, however, stiffened as the MC continued. "Since she was young, the bride has always been devoted to her family. She was a diligent student who successfully entered her desired university. After starting her job, she became a very reliable employee at the company," the MC narrated. Kate's friends and colleagues, who knew about her student days and workplace, began to buzz with excitement. "Hey, isn't that a photo from the welcome party at university? Kate didn't go to such a good university, did she? Wait, isn't that a photo from the company's welcome party? Wait a minute, looking closely, it's completely different. If this isn't Kate." Liam also seemed to have noticed. "What the hell is this? This isn't Kate." Unaware of the bride and groom's pale faces, the MC continued advancing the slides. And then she met the groom, Liam, at the company. According to the bride's mother, she initially taught and trained the groom as his instructor. Then the two got married. Photos from Emma's wedding with Liam followed. The MC couldn't hide their confusion. Realizing something was wrong, they fell silent. At that moment, my mother took the stage and grabbed the microphone. "From here on, I'll take over and explain," she announced smoothly, advancing the slides. Even after marriage, my daughter supported him both personally and professionally. However, as Liam got busier, he couldn't find time for her, so my daughter planned a spa trip to help relieve his stress. "Wait, please," Liam tried to interject, but my mother ignored him, continuing with the slides. The next photo showed them entering the spa hotel together, very close to each other. Finally, photos of the bride and groom appeared, silencing both the MC and the guests. However, Liam and Kate grew even paler. Liam declined the trip planned by my daughter due to a business trip. My mother continued, saying it couldn't be helped that he had to go for work. My daughter invited me to the spa trip, and that's where we witnessed his affair. With those words, everyone started talking and buzzing about what my mother had revealed. An affair? And this wedding is for Kate and Liam, right? Could it be that this wedding is based on their affair? But why would Kate's mother? To answer the guests' questions, my mother continued slowly. Liam swore to marry my beloved daughter Emma and make her happy. Instead, he betrayed her. To make matters worse, he cheated on Emma with her own sister Kate. "Mother, stop it already. Today is my wedding day. Why won't you celebrate my happiness?" Kate cried out, trying to stop her mother. But my mother coldly looked at Kate and said, "I have always wished for your happiness, but you were the one who ruined it first." My mother-in-law's voice was stern. Emma always considered not only herself but also the happiness of her family. "What about you, Kate? Have you ever thought about how much Emma would be hurt by your actions?" "Well," Kate hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "She always seems so happy. It's not fair. Instead of being happy for your family, you just got jealous, huh?" "Mother-in-law, please stop. She is your precious daughter too, right? If that's the case, can't you celebrate our new beginning?" Kate pleaded. "Why are you doing this? I don't want to become family with someone as dishonest as you." I saw it clearly at today's ceremony. My mother's voice grew more assertive. "If you really intend to start something with Kate, why didn't you invite a single person from your own company? If you're going to have such a grand ceremony, shouldn't you apologize to Emma?" It's selfish to invite me and her father to the wedding without making any effort like that. But Emma has been ignoring me all this time, Liam interjected defensively. Of course she has. After what you've done, it's only natural, my mother retorted sharply. But that's all in the past, isn't it? Do you think her wounds will heal in just 3 years? Do you think you can regain our trust in such a short time? Don't be ridiculous. My mother concluded with finality. After those words, my mother angrily left the venue with my father. I could hear her voice from the cell phone. Did you see that, Emma? Yes, I replied quietly. I'm sorry for reminding you of painful things. I just can't stand seeing those two act like nothing happened. No, thank you. I feel relieved. It's like you said everything I wanted to say. That's right, Emma. You always keep everything to yourself. I thought it was just too kind of you to not tell your colleagues the reason for your divorce. After that, my mother sent me a recording of her conversation with Liam during the wedding. Indeed, as my mother said, even if time passes, it's not easy to forget. Moreover, Liam showed no signs of remorse whatsoever, calling it a thing of the past. I decided to begin my second life by giving Liam a fitting punishment. I chose to confront him during a company presentation. The opportunity arose during a company-wide presentation where volunteers from various departments could participate. Swiftly signing up, I entered the conference room. When it was Liam's turn to speak, his supervisor, unaware of his remarriage, commented, "Liam, you seem even more motivated today. Must be because you just got married." "Yes, I will do my best for my family," Liam replied, sounding genuinely happy. He should have known I was present, but that only strengthened my resolve. I played the recorded audio I received from my mother. The sudden noise from the audio surprised the participants, but as they learned about Liam's affair with my sister after marrying me, accusations began to fly. "Liam, didn't you claim the reason for our divorce was a difference in values?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, really? Well, I can't understand a value that involves cheating with your own wife's sister." I apologize for bringing personal matters into this important presentation, I continued. As of today, I have decided to resign. I have tolerated being in this company because I value it, but I can no longer work in the same place as him. As I moved to leave, the board members intervened to stop me. "Wait a minute, Emma," one of them spoke up. "You're an invaluable asset to our company. If anyone should leave, it should be Liam." "But I've always been seen as having a promising future here," I protested. "We had high expectations for you in the past, but lately, your performance has declined. Your focus has waned, and it seems you've lost the problem-solving abilities you once had," another board member explained. Meanwhile, Kate, who had been incompetent with household chores even when living with her parents, became a full-time housewife after marrying Liam. She left most of the housework to him, causing him stress at work. Unable to offer him the support I once could, his performance suffered further. News of his affair with his wife's sister spread throughout the company, tarnishing his reputation. During the board meeting, it was decided that I would stay at the company while Liam would be transferred to a remote location with the likelihood of being laid off in the future. Kate, who had enjoyed a comfortable life as a housewife with Liam's support, abandoned him when she discovered his financial troubles. She moved on to another man, only to find out he was a freeloader burdened with debts. Now, she works 2 jobs day and night to make ends meet. As the saying goes, what goes around comes around. Watching Liam and Kate struggle, I finally felt ready to start anew.